Welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl. Join your host, her inner circle, and expert guests weekly for chats about dating, secure attachment, the solo lifestyle, doing relationships differently, and of course, sex. And here's your host, Janice Formichella.
Welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl, everybody. And welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl for his first appearance, Sebastien Reco. Was that good?
Hello. Yes, it was
Hi.
good.
So this is interesting. Sebastien and I must have crossed paths in Australia, though we haven't quite figured out when, but we've got like 80 friends in common or something. So I'm thinking we've met in person before, but you are now calling in from, where are you in the world right now?
Right now I am in Portugal, South Portugal.
Wonderful. I love that we are so international on this show. Today, we are going to be talking all about pleasure. This is going to be a juicy one. Thank you for being willing to come on and inform my audience about your perspective on this.
That's actually a real pleasure and we're going quite aligned with what I'm doing daily, so I'm happy to expand on there.
Great. Why don't you just say briefly what it is that you are doing on a day-to-day basis that's related to pleasure?
So part of my work is leading workshops and retreats, which is mostly about discovering oneself, and pleasure is one of the big factors. Though I'm trying to make the bridge between the mind, the emotions, and the body more likely. So it's not only about sexual pleasure, but about pleasure of existence, pleasure of life itself.
This is a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you first. Before I get into any episodes, I like to be really clear about what we're talking about. I like to give my listeners lots of practical advice and be as educational as possible. So, for the purposes of this episode, how do you define pleasure? What are we going to be talking about?
Pleasure, if I have to make it a bit as a shortcut introduction, it's the capacity to know oneself, basically. It's the capacity to feel. So it's not only about, as many people will understand, is something that feels good in the body. So pleasure have to be seen in the physical body, but also in the emotions and in the mind. The pleasure is when we basically meet ourselves and allow to see, feel, and know who and what we are.
And this is important because I study Tantra, as I think I've mentioned to you. And before you get into anything that's sexual, even self-pleasure practices, especially partnered practices, the most fundamental thing that everything else builds upon is the relationship with self and self-love, and laying that as the foundation before you move forward. So I think that it's important that we're starting with that. We will talk about physical pleasure, but as you said, that's not really the starting point. Am I correct about that?
I believe we can approach it from any angle, and they will all lead to the same conclusion, which is indeed is about knowing yourself before anything. There is this idea that pleasure often comes from the encounter with someone else, that pleasure comes from outside somehow. But the grandmother of my partner used to say, if you don't love yourself, you're going to spend your life begging others to love you.
Oh, okay.
And it goes the same with pleasure. If you don't know your own pleasure, you're going to spend your life searching for someone to reveal it to yourself.
A lot of people who listen don't quite understand a concept that you and I understand, and that is that we are responsible for our own pleasure. Nobody else is responsible for it.
So nobody is responsible. Some people can help you see it or feel it.
Okay.
But ultimately, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know how you get pleasure, every time you encounter someone, you're just like a beggar. You're just trying, please give me something. In reality, in the other approach, once you start to discover your own pleasures, your own body, your own triggers, you start to simply know yourself. And then when you meet someone, you don't meet from a place where you need them, but where you have something to share. And these require exploring with yourself, by yourself. And this includes an element very important, which is curiosity.
Curiosity. Okay. Tell me more
And
about that.
that goes much against how the modern world and lifestyle is going on, where we always seek something outside to fulfill ourselves. When actually the pleasure doesn't come from an action, it comes from an attention.
Okay.
When I
Not
start to
from
look
an
at my,
action and intention.
not from an action, but an attention. When you start to look at yourself, pleasure can happen in anything. I will give a very simple example, which is not even physical.
Ooh.
You can just pass by a park and see a flower, and you just saw a flower. And that's it, nothing happened. Or you can pass by a flower, look at it, forget that you know, and bring back the curiosity to it.
Mm.
Try to experience it, to discover it, to feel it like fresh, like new. In that case, this simple experience can becoming a very fulfilling one, where you really discover again the smell, the softness by touching a petal, the sensation of beauty that just emanates from it. So it goes the same with our own body and sensation. If we don't know ourselves or we take it for granted, it doesn't bring much joy, it doesn't bring much pleasure. But bringing the curiosity to it, we start to explore, discover, touching ourselves in different way, feeling in different way.
So
And
rather
suddenly,
than going through the motions, you're saying stopping to be curious about things just like flowers.
exactly just like flowers.
How can you start to do that? Because I am positive that so many people walk around, are around flowers, eat things, speak with people, clean their apartment, so many things, and don't have any idea that there could be pleasure associated with these things. How can you begin to stop going through the motions and become curious? I mean, I think a lot of people just rush through the day, and this takes a lot of intention, don't you think?
So it takes a lot of intention if you see it from a perspective of discipline or a must do, but actually it takes a lot of relaxation. It's the
Oh,
opposite.
okay.
What it takes is getting out of our own way, stopping to believe that we know and give ourselves a chance to discover again. Today, there is such a huge business about the first time, whatever. So we're selling courses, we're selling books, we're selling events where we try to offer something that people never felt before. But when the real pleasure is when rediscovering the thing itself. So what it takes is to relax, take yourself a little bit less seriously,
See, I'm a
and give you
disciplined person who wants to learn things and teach myself things. And so I think of it, yeah, as intention, but you're right. And I guess I can't, I don't know if I can relate as much to that because that's not how I do it. But now that I've learned to do these things, I do think that I feel more relaxed. And so how can you teach yourself to do that? Get out of your head.
So what you just said exactly is this. You are approaching life and pleasure from the head perspective. Because
Okay.
there is a head, the mental pleasure into learning things and knowing them, organizing them, structuring them, and
Yeah.
having this sense of control. So there's a pleasure there which should not be discarded. But it should not be the lead motor either. It's one of at least 3 different motors.
Okay. I'm
The,
writing this down.
the mental pleasure is a lot about knowing for yourself and searching for complementarity. The emotional pleasure is a lot about feeling yourself in relationship with what's outside. And there is where most people mistake the point, even in sexuality. Many people go into sexuality through mental and physical pleasure and forget the emotional in that way. So what it takes to get this curiosity is give yourself a chance, step back and rediscover. It doesn't take much, a little bit of awareness more than attention. Meaning taking a space in your time, and you can use the mind for that to make it as a discipline. It can start from there, but doesn't have to. And just say,
Okay.
okay, today I'm gonna have a walk in the park and I would pretend I'm a kid 7 years old. How much freedom can I give myself to look around and look as if it was the first time?
Oh, it's beautiful.
In this self, there is already a huge amount of joy and trust me, a huge amount of pleasure, because if you're a kid, you're not walking from point A from point B, you become a butterfly. Whatever calls your attraction, you just follow it and you go with it. This in itself is a gift and a pleasure to start with.
I am
But it will not lead
enraptured.
only to that. It will also lead to the fact that when you will touch a tree, You will not touch a tree. You will touch something and try to see how it feels. Bring your hand to the bark and say how this feels. Oh, it's rough. Oh, this one is soft. Actually, you probably don't touch only with your hands. You're gonna touch with your cheeks, with your body, with your forearms,
Or
because you
touch it
want
at
to
all. I
experience.
think a lot of people wouldn't think to put their hands on something as they are walking around. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in the park, though. If you have access to a park, there you go. Like, what a beautiful opportunity. It could even be when you're walking down a busy street, when you're going to get your mail, and even something like cleaning your apartment. Get curious about where you live and notice things more, touch things, take special care for your home and your surroundings and what's around you and what you can move, and develop new relationships with things. What do you think about like just the mundane day to
I
day?
completely agree. Obviously, there is one of the retreat I lead, which is about breaking the routine, about discovering again, so reigniting curiosity in itself. And the best advice I give is that, and it starts home. Can you start doing the things you do home in a new way? So can you start basically to experience freshly what is? So it goes along any spiritual teaching of being in the now, but brings it to a very practical, pragmatic way and approach, a very direct experience. Meaning when you're home and you're making your coffee, let's say you always put maybe the same amount of coffee in the coffee machine. Can you try to put a bit more or a bit less today? You may
And
probably
enjoy
have a
it.
favorite cup. You have a favorite cup you use every time. Can you try to use a different cup, maybe a glass? What about a glass instead of a cup today? If you write in a diary, can you try to use a different pen? Basically, all the things we do, giving ourselves a chance to make them differently. That's the first step, because we naturally will create curiosity because the experience will not bring the same outcome as we used to.
I work with a lot of people who are going through breakups, and a new morning routine and changing up your environment is something that I encourage people to do, because we often have associations when we wake up in the morning with maybe our ex or the routine that we had with our ex, or we wake up after a breakup feeling immediately depressed. And so I encourage people to switch up their environment so that they have a different association and a different level of joy or just different thoughts that come into your mind in the morning, rather than just day in day out feeling shitty or thinking about your ex and texting them every morning.
Exactly. It's all about bringing new imprints in the brain, new memories of doing things. And there is two layers. One is what you do it differently. And the second layer is do something you never do.
Beautiful. Thank you. This is rocking my world. We are like cut out of the same cloth. Oh, I have the biggest smile on my face right now. So that is the starting point, and we can all think of something that we can do differently and how we can experience our surroundings differently. Thank you so much for that. We could just end right there, but we we are not going
But
to.
there is so much more.
Yes, we are actually going to talk about sexual pleasure, but everybody, please know that it starts with this. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is basically slow sex. And something that you had brought up when we talked is sex today. I mean, I am inundated in this world. I have books, I listen to other podcasts, I have sex coaches in my world, and there is so much emphasis put on achieving orgasm or achieving certain types of orgasm. And there's so much that we miss out on when that is the approach. However, a lot of people listening would definitely say, obviously that's the goal. I mean, who doesn't want to have orgasms? Of course, that's what I'm working toward or trying to provide my partner. But there's an alternative that you know of. And what is that?
Hmm. So the problem is the goal-oriented approach. So even the idea of slow sex, I'm a little bit reluctant to use this term in itself,
Okay.
because it's again goal-oriented toward doing in a certain way.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Because, okay, totally. I mean, I practice Tantra, and it does, you have like certain things that you try out, and you can get in your head even with that. Is I mean, is that
So
kind of
I
what you're
I
saying?
have been practicing in multiple traditions and way of doing it and being quite intense sometimes. So as a male body, I did practice ejaculation control and things like that, full body orgasm and things and so on. Then I've been practicing also slow sex or raising of awareness and so on. But both bring the same problem, is that ultimately it brings me in my head at a certain point, and more important, it cuts me with what is now. So if I'm pursuing an orgasm, it is as much as limiting as pursuing non-ejaculation, which is as much as limiting as having slow sex. The
Okay.
point is that we lose touch with what is now, and we never learn how to dance. So when it comes to orgasm, the problem is that many people rush toward that because they consider it's the peak of an experience. It's the goal, it's the accumulation, it's the best part of it. So we want that. But imagine now you're listening a piece of music and you just put it in accelerated because you want the closing part. It's stupid. The
Totally. Yeah.
point of the song is to listen the song and is to dance it. It's not to get the last move right. And the real trick is that when chasing this orgasm, we lose the sensation of what is really happening now, and we lose awareness of the buildup of the pleasure. I'm not speaking here of what I've been also teaching in the past and let go, which is the edging practices.
I
So
do want to
many,
actually talk about that, but first let's talk about what the thread that you're on now, which is stepping away from the goal and being in the moment. And then we'll get to that if you don't mind.
so the idea is that pleasure can be felt in any moment, any move, any sensation. The idea is not to do something which is pleasant, is to find the pleasure into what's happening,
Oh, yes.
which is extremely different. So for that, of course, you need to know yourself, like mentioned before. You need to know your own body in order to feel it. In order to feel, you need to relax. When you tense, you build up energy. When you relax, you feel it. That's where the idea of slow sex comes in. Yeah.
Where can we begin? I know that I might want to sit here and, for instance, encourage everybody to meditate, because that's being in the moment. And but again, that's perhaps too intentional. If someone really has not had experience with sex this way, which is going to be a lot of people. I mean, that's how it is portrayed all around us. That's really how we learn, even as children, when we masturbate to try to get to a finish, which I hate that term. How can you begin to allow yourself to experience lovemaking this way? Because I like to really give practical tools.
So as a practical way to start, I would say start where you are. Meaning, if your base is now, I know sex only by, let's say, Hollywood movie culture, when people rush into each other and it must be passionate and intense and ripping off the clothes of each other, that's a great lovemaking.
Yeah.
Okay, if this is what you have to start, you can start with that. Allow that passion to unfold, allow that desire to build. Because again, in this tension, because it is a tension, in this tension, energy built. So let the energy be built. Allow it, allow yourself to enjoy what you know. But then find a way to pause and bring awareness and change the rhythm. This can be done in multiple ways. For example, imagine you're with your partner, you start to make love and you put music on. Create a playlist which makes variation between intense and soft pieces of music.
Oh, yeah.
And for example, try how can I make love, allowing myself to change the energy and the intensity and using the music as my timeline. It's just one example, it can be many things. At a point, you don't need the music because you learn how to follow the flow. But to start, you need a bit of a guide. Music is a great one. So you start with having this passionate lovemaking where you start to really be physically close to each other and engaging. And then when the music changes, can you stop being lost in the energy and instead feel it again? Which will move toward what people say the slow sex in that piece. Meaning, oh, can I slow down and feel a bit more? Feel my body, get the sensation in. When my partner touches me, what do I really feel? What's really happening? So one way could be that, to change the rhythm and the flow. Another way could be to change the polarity. Changing the polarity would mean that we can relate, I guess, that sometime in lovemaking we are more on the receiving hand or more on the giving hand.
Yeah.
More on the doing or more on the feeling. The issue is that often one gets stuck in this role and the dance doesn't happen as much as we could wish. So same, the music could be done for that, or it could be whatever other external stimuli to remind the timing, but giving yourself a chance to change that polarity. In one lovemaking, if not possible, from one to the next lovemaking. For example, at one point, I will be the one pleasing my partner, really giving pleasure and experiencing the doing and the holding space in some way, though I don't like too much that expression. But then on the next cycle, trying to be on the receiving hand, on the feeling hand, this for a woman, for a man is highly valuable and rare to be on the receiving hand.
Mhm.
And for a woman, it's a gift also to be able to hold the man in that. So that's the play of polarity. When people speak of Tantra and of this polarized sexuality, I really dislike the idea that the masculine and the feminine hold the pole. No, both of us must be able to dance because both of us hold the entirety of the dance. So it's to learning how to shift habit. Again, is about getting out of the routine. It is the same thing at the beginning.
One way, and going back to the beginning, sorry to interrupt. If you're looking for a way to initially step into this, this is one reason why like sensual massage, it can be a good tool, because if you're not used to giving or receiving, whichever end that you feel that you're normally on. For instance, if the woman giving a man a massage could be a way to feel what it's like to step into the giving.
Here, there's a little trick, is that it's not about really giving or receiving in itself, but it's about being in the buildup of energy and being in the receptivity of it. And when you give the massage, probably many people can relate. Somehow someone come and say, oh, I would love to give you a massage, but at the end you feel like they've been taking something from you rather than giving. And it's a bit unpleasant feeling that the one was not really giving me pleasure. He was just having pleasure and not really caring about me.
Okay. In some cases, this
So
could be a way to play with it, but I see what you're saying, and also that you're not as much being in the moment. Am I correct?
The point is, how much can you feel?
Mm-hmm.
How much can you allow yourself to feel yourself? It's not about feeling the pleasure of, oh, someone is giving me a massage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being aroused by the other one. It's about being aroused from your own energy, from your own pleasure, not becoming dependent on what the other do, but enjoying the doing in order to feel yourself more. It's coming back to yourself.
Mm-hmm. How can a man do that who's not used to receiving in that way?
So usually for men is a little bit harder, and I don't want to make I don't want to make a strict line because it would be very deserving reality, but still there is a general tendency there. The best way always is to cut some senses to increase the other one. So making sure the man is blindfold, for example, making sure that the man's hands doesn't touch the body of the giver of the massage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect.
For example, those kind of things will help the man to feel more, supporting and guiding into breathing, because the issue is that when we tense, we stop breathing or we intensify the breathing. Mm-hmm. Instead, learning how to relax it. So there will be a lot of guidance that can be done there. Ultimately, is about the person's willingness to feel.
Mm. Thank you so much. I know something that we weren't really going to talk about, but something that interests me is this whole concept of edging and ejaculation control. And I know that that's not really why we're here, but I would love to maybe hear from you. I know that this is not something that you really preach at all because it's goal oriented, but I mean, can you just maybe talk about edging and what it is and how you've experienced it in the past, or how you see others utilize it as I guess, portal to more pleasure?
Mm-hmm. So the way I experienced it for a few years living in tantric community where ejaculation was basically forbidden, Like it was
It's
taught
true,
that
everybody. This is a
you
thing.
need to, yeah, this is really a thing which when you're there sounds good, when you look backwards sounds a bit stupid or limiting at least. So I spent literally 3 years with no ejaculating because I learned how not to do so.
Wow. What did you
Till,
gain from
till,
that?
till the point I was teaching men how not to ejaculate. I had workshops on that.
Wow.
What did I learn? The beauty part of it is I learned how to detach from the desire of ejaculating, which led me to the capacity to feel more energy
Okay.
and to build up more energy, hence leading to full body orgasms, trance, Kundalini rising, and all those fashion tricks nowadays. The problem is that in the same time, it kept me loop in a form of control.
Yeah.
Because the wish to desire as the wish to ejaculate, as the wish not to ejaculate, both remain a wish which doesn't allow you to really feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be useful at the time to learn how not to rush for ejaculation. I believe
Not to
it is
rush.
cool because you want to really learn how to feel and realize that pleasure is not dependent from ejaculation. Any man listening would be agree that you can definitely ejaculate without an orgasm. They are not linked.
Okay.
And I can tell you, you can definitely orgasm without an ejaculation.
I absolutely love this. And maybe we could do a whole episode just on the male orgasm.
Yeah, it's a bit like
Perhaps.
sneezing, you know, when you snooze, you put your hand in front of your mouth. The same principle. When you get an orgasm, you ejaculate. It's like the end that comes by the mouth as a reaction. It's a reaction triggered. We are used that when we reach a certain amount of energy, intensity, stuck in a certain part of the body, so in this case, the second chakra, when too much energy is there, it needs to move because we don't learn how to move it through the body. We only learn how to move it outward. Hence, too much energy, I ejaculate as a reflex. The goal is to, and goal, that's a very sad joke to say now.
Yeah.
The gift is not a goal. The gift is to learn that when there is too much energy in one place of your body, you can move it instead of eject it out.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine your body and your pleasure like a big balloon. Your body, to use the chakra system, but many other works. Imagine each chakra like a balloon. When you make love, let's say the second chakra, which is more linked with basic sexual sensual pleasure, when the pleasure builds up, the energy accumulates, the balloon inflates. Till a point, if it's too much blown inside, it will explode, hence ejaculation. But when the balloon expands, at a point, through various and multiple techniques, we can learn how to make this air move to another balloon in the body. So you deflate the second chakra to inflate the next one.
I would like to discuss why it is that you and I and people running workshops are passionate about this, and that is partially because living in a world where people go through the motions and see sex as goal oriented can have some negative effects on society, relationships, individuality. What are some reasons why this is so important? What is problematic about going through life and sex this way? Like what are we seeing in the world that not could be fixed, but that is, I suppose, holding us back, or even in some cases polluting a relationship?
The biggest issue, and of course it links with whatever we said since the beginning, because it's the same point with different declination. The biggest issue is that we are trying to get something from outside. We are running after something with the idea that we lack, that we miss, that we don't have, so we need to get it outside. Through that, we miss the real point of relating and lovemaking. We miss the basic core, which is properly meeting each other. If I'm seeing the other one as the key to get what I miss, either I will become dependent, either I will learn how to manipulate the other one.
Yeah. And that's why we see so many couples, I think, down the line or after the quote honeymoon period who feel so sexually unfulfilled, and lots of married couples who end up going to counseling even because one person feels completely shut off from their desire and the other person feels unfulfilled or undesired, or just ultimately they're living in a sexless marriage.
Yeah, yes, basically, if we work on each other with a sense of dependency, we need someone from the other, we need something from the other one. So we will not allow the other one to change because we may lose what we need for them. So we force each other as an unsaid agreement to remain as we are. And no growth, no change, no transformation, which in itself means no pleasure. Because pleasure evolves and changes through time. It cannot remain the same. Anything you do every day barely get a chance to remain pleasant. So if we keep our partners in the way they have been since we meet them, oh, I love when you do that like that. Even the best blowjob repeated 100 times doesn't come so good at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's been repeated. The pleasure is in the flow, and the flow needs freedom. And freedom means independence. Independence, though, doesn't mean non-commitment. Not the same. We can be committed to each other, but not forcing each other to remain as we are.
Yeah.
And sexuality needs that. Sexuality needs that we discover new things, new pleasure. And this needs that everyone feel himself, feel free to change, feel even free to not please the partner and bringing things that the other one may not like.
Yes.
Because that's a big danger and risk that we shut down ourselves because like, oh, I would like to experience these new kind of things, but I believe my partner will not. I will shut down myself. Result, when you will make love next time, your fantasy will go somewhere where your partner is not, and you slowly stop to meet each other.
And one big part about this that we haven't mentioned, but that probably we must, is the communication aspect of it. And this does go back a bit, well, if not entirely, to knowing yourself, knowing what turns you on, knowing how you find pleasure, and being able to communicate that. That is definitely something that I see where either you think your partner should just know or work toward that, or that you simply get into a routine of having sex or not without really vocalizing it to each other. And I think that communication is something that we probably shouldn't leave out of this discussion.
It's in itself a full book to write, to be honest. But yeah, even more than communication, I would say transparency.
Okay.
Because we spoke everywhere we can hear easily about communication, but behind it is transparency. And transparency means the willingness to be seen as we are. So it's not only about communicating, which is a big part of it, of course, but beyond is the willingness to be seen as we are, which is a self-affirmation to step in the world as we truly feel ourselves. And that takes a great amount of courage, facing a lot of vulnerability, fears of being rejected, not being accepted as we are. But this is the gift of stopping to tweak ourselves to fit a picture that we have been given by ourselves and by our understanding of what the world wants from us. And if we cannot do that in our couple, where can we do it? If I cannot be me, fully me, truly honest, showing my shiny part and showing the part that I'm a bit ashamed or afraid of, if I cannot do that with the one I love the most, where will I do it ever?
That's beautiful. You are brilliant. I think that would be the word of the episode, is beautiful. So this is probably not an appropriate episode for a drinking game, but beautiful would be the word where you would take a drink. Well, maybe. I mean, wine is and champagne are pleasurable to me. So yeah, maybe it is appropriate. What can you tell us about the veil of separation? And then I want to talk just a little bit more about oral sex. So I'm preparing you.
The idea of the veil of separation. So it's what I touched briefly just before. When we meet and when we make love, somehow we are two persons trying to get something from each other, when actually the real purpose of lovemaking is to feel what is between each other, which in itself means stepping outside of myself. The veil of separation is this idea that there is you and me making love and we get pleasure. But the reality is that there is you and me, and in between there is the pleasure. The pleasure is the point of connection, is the point of enchanting. It's in itself what we would call love. And love is not in a romantic way at all when I speak of that. It's in the way of what connects everything. When lovemaking, there is a doorway, there is an opportunity which is so precious and rarely even known of, is the capacity of dissolving. When I make love, I don't want Sebastien to be more of Sebastien. I don't want to give more pleasure to myself. I want to disappear, actually. I want to dissolve. I want to melt. I want to become one, that actually our body dance together, that I'm not doing, I'm not receiving. There is no anymore I and you. There is just the dance. In itself, lovemaking from a tantric approach is a trance. It's a transcendental experience. Nowadays, we speak about transpersonal experiences, though there is a bit of a trap in this because transpersonal, I've seen it distorted as dissociation. You don't want just to jump and throw yourself into the pool and just do whatever because you are not there. No, that's not the point.
Okay.
The point is that you give yourself so much freedom that there is no more need to resist anything. And once you don't resist, the very idea of consent and boundaries become a laughable joke. Not because they are not important, but because naturally, if with my partner we are in beautiful synchronization and connection, there is not me doing what I want or not wanting something, because what we do is what both of us are co-creating. What naturally unfolds is the creation of our encounter. And there is nothing we resist, push, or pull. There is just a letting go and a dropping into pleasure itself. And that is the most exquisite, ecstatic feeling one can experience.
And now I'm putting you on the spot a little, but I think that this might be important. And this is the concept of oral sex, which is often, if not always, seen as you giving someone something. So I went to your blog and you I would like you to talk about this because you have a wonderful blog post about your desire and your love of giving oral sex to a female partner. In fact, I mean, this was a few weeks ago when I read this, and I believe per his actions and words that this is how my partner feels. And I was telling him about this blog post, and he was like, "Oh, that's so brave and also so apt." I would love to hear from you a little bit about this, the blog post, and your enjoyment of giving this. Oh, no. See, right there, I just said it. You giving this, but you do it for your own pleasure just as much. I was looking forward to asking you about this.
If I remember well, it's a post which dates from quite a long time ago
Yeah,
now.
I did see that as well. So you know
Yes.
what? As you said earlier, maybe it's changed. Maybe you've evolved.
No,
maybe
it
you
didn't
see it
change.
different. No,
It didn't change
no
a bit.
chance. All right,
No.
lay it on me.
If I remember well, the name of this post is A Praise to Her Fragrance.
Yes, a praise to her fragrance.
The idea for me in oral sex, and from the very beginning, I get the chance to experience it in that way, is that when oral sex is given to please the other one, it is rarely fulfilling. So you may learn how to be technically very good. And I even remember some men teaching other men how to give oral sex, the techniques, the tongue movement, the speed. Like, oh my God, what is this?
I listened to a podcast that I'm not gonna say on the air, but it is, give oral sex that will make her come or make her squirt or make her. And I'll share it with you privately. You'll be horrified. I listen because I'm wanting to be a sex coach and I'm very curious about what's out there and the ideology, but it really is about having this goal of just blowing her mind.
It's really lame. Like seriously lame and empty. I'm sorry.
I cannot wait to
I'm
share
taking
this
light
with you.
words not to be insulting, but it's a pity. It's really a pity. The point of oral sex is like everything in pleasure again. Pleasure is shared. So the best way if you want to give oral sex, which is actually pleasing, is by having yourself pleasure in doing it. If you remove your own pleasure from the equation, what you will have is mind pleasure, not physical, not energetic, not emotional.
Oh,
When you're giving oral sex, you don't do it for the other one, though the other one will enjoy the ripples and the consequences of it, but you do it because you're delighted in doing it. Genuinely, this is a recognition to a very primal part of ourselves. So first was the sense of smell. Like if you don't like the smell of someone, most likely you should not make love with them, basically. Like it's
yeah,
a very clear
that's a good point.
information that your physical chemistry is not there. Even if there is a love and emotionality, you need to figure out something about the smell. But when you put your head in between someone's leg, you want to feel like drawn to it. You want to smell the flower. You want the whole smell to go inside you and fill you up. You want, when we say to eat a woman in that way, to eat, I don't know how much I can use words
Oh, it's
here.
no, you can actually say anything you want on a podcast.
Okay,
So
so
I
if you
think what
really
you want to
want,
say is eat her out.
if you really want to eat a pussy, you want to have the whole taste, smell, flavor inside you and keep it inside your mouth for as long as you can. It's because you want to be filled up by that. And then the technique is just a ridiculous question. It's not how you move, it's how actually you naturally allow yourself to take it in. And there is some moment you will go like a wild beast, ravishing and devouring.
Oh yeah.
But this will naturally balance and dance with moment of softness and delicateness when you just enjoy smelling the flower. And it will dance again into a time that is not a flower but a fruit, and you want the juiciness dripping on your own cheeks and chin. And the whole point is to dance between those different poles. Again, is a dance breaking the routine. It's not one way, not one rhythm. It's allow yourself to flow and dance with it, almost laughing at yourself in some way, because from outside it may look a pretty awkward at time, I would say. And the real pleasure is when there is no more control. There is, you lose self-awareness. You stop forgetting, you stop thinking about what I may look like, what I may sound, because you want to sound also. If there is no sound, where is your pleasure? That's another very big topic. Pleasure needs sound to move.
Yeah.
Sound is vibration that moves through the body. So when you go down on someone, if you just get silence, means something in you is tense.
Yeah.
Pleasure is not there.
And I can say, oh, first of all, as far as sound goes, you're gonna love this. My partner and I, we received a note from a neighbor saying that we were too loud because I think we get lost in the moment. I will also say this has to do with the female receptivity as well. Something that I definitely can relate to is when you're receiving oral sex, getting in your head about climaxing, thinking that this is what your partner wants, and then really just thinking so hard about, is he doing it right? Is he hitting the right spot? Doesn't he want me to come? Is he going to feel bad if I don't come? And that completely destroys the experience.
Yes, it does. It
Mhm.
does.
Yeah.
But in that case, the whole starting canvas is wrong. The whole of it, the whole picture you describe start wrongly or poorly. I don't want to say people is wrong because we do what we are, you know, but it's a pity, it's a miss, it's a fail somehow. So first of all, if we are thinking of what our partner wants, something is missing, which is the connection already.
Yeah.
If the partner wants to make us reach an orgasm, first of all, it's very arrogant. Orgasms are never given. They are allowed by ourselves to feel. No one will ever give you an orgasm. You allow yourself to have them. It's very different. And secondly, the point is, like we mentioned before, if you are this goal of having an orgasm, you are not enjoying what is now. And then instead, you force your energy to be condensed in a small part of your body, in that case, the genitals. But actually it's more the mind looking at the genitals than the genitals itself. There is no pleasure in there. If you receive oral sex, you want to allow your body to move, for example.
Yeah.
If someone is going down on you and you are not undulating, at least in a subtle way, it doesn't have to be a strong, ample movement. But if there is not something in you which is undulating, if your fingers are not moving between stretch, tense, relax, if your jaw is not moving in different dance of tension and relaxation, if your tongue is stiff, it means you are not in your body. You are in your head looking at certain part of the body. pleasure there is very limited. This is mental pleasure, observing the body. There is no real depth of pleasure in there.
Yes,
Very
thank you.
contained.
Or finding the right spot or any of these things. So I wanted to read you some of this. How to be better in bed as a man is one of the episodes. 11 sex toys that make her come harder in all caps. How to get harder erections as a man. What women enjoy most in bed. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm just saying this because this is really a lot of what is out there is this mindset.
Because the belief in that case, which break the whole game, for example, for one of the line you just read, the idea that you need to be hard to have pleasure. That's already, it's such a jail for men, which actually stops them from being present, because there is an obsession with being hard. Actually, the more you stress about being hard, the least you are. And if you are because you are tensing into it instead of feeling it. The real beauty again is the dance. If you make love in what I would call the beautiful way, not to say the proper way, you most likely will have hard zone and soft on and hard zone and soft on. And this is the dance. And the pleasure is in the dance. Because when you get harder, you build up energy. When you get softer, you feel that build up. And that's where the pleasure moves. That's where the permission is given.
I think that we will wrap up. We've talked about lots of tips here. I'm going to do some social media on this. But let's just end with things that you would, maybe 2 or 3 things you'd like to encourage those listening to do, maybe things that they can try to move in this direction of mindset, even lifestyle, lovemaking, and pleasure.
There is one practice I could propose, which I like to give in different contexts, is something I call the beloved bath.
Say that one more time.
The beloved bath.
The beloved bath.
The beloved bath.
Thank you, beloved bath. Okay.
That's a practice which I encourage, which I've been doing myself a lot of time, and I've been encouraging many people as a good way to start. What about tonight? Tonight or tomorrow, when you have time, actually, you want to get at least, I would say, 30, 45-minute minimum. And trying to remember a time when people would give baths to people, to another one. Oh. Imagine you have, let me rewind this one. The beloved bath is the idea of how often maybe you have experienced, and I hope you did, giving a bath to someone. Like when I had some partner, sometimes I would make a bath, make the water hot, put some flower petal in there, put the music, the candles, and invite my lover to go into the bath and wash them.
Oh, wow.
That's a very simple practice which I encourage everyone to do, to bath each other, but in a way of service, in a way of offering something. But even more than that, trying to bring this back to ourselves, and can the loved one be yourself? So what I encourage people to try is that if it's not a bath, a shower does the job, but creating a context in which you would say, okay, this will be my beloved time for myself, or I will be my own lover. So it's turning the attention, instead of putting it to someone else, to bring it back to ourselves. Set a time when you have your bathroom ready. Make the light a bit dim in some ways, maybe candle, incense, essential oil, whatever makes the mood, sets up, proper music. Go inside this shower as a gift to yourself. So you go into the bathroom, you will remove your clothes as a ritual in itself. Not rushing, but really feeling the clothes slowly sliding on your skin. So this brings back the curiosity of the senses, allowing yourself to feel the pleasure, and really going in the idea that it's you, the lover, which is making a gift to you, the loved one. And simply offering you that time. Wash yourself as a gift to yourself. Take the time to brush your skin, to wash it with love. More than the soap is the attention that is washing you. To take a time to nurture your body, to love yourself, to make a gift to yourself consciously. That's one thing I would seriously encourage people to try.
That sounds great, and that is very practical, so thank you.
Another one is the one I gave before, which is about breaking the routine. And this, I do believe that those kind of change require the level of commitment in order not to be dissolved or forgotten in time. And I would recommend, for example, tell yourself for a week, every day I would do one thing differently, and every day I would do one new thing. So the one thing differently could be, for example, the way you go to work. Every day, take a new way. Take a new road to go to work every day, for example. Changing a habit. This will allow yourself to bring a little bit of freshness in life daily. And every day, do one thing that you never did before. Doesn't have to be something like skydiving or traveling
Perfect.
around the world. It can be simply, okay, I'm never eating Ethiopian food. Tonight, I'm going to order myself a food I never tried before. Or I never ate wasabi. Today, I will eat wasabi. Whatever it is, finding one thing you never dared to do and try it. This is a way to start breaking routine and starting new habits.
Perfect. And again, very practical. Sebastien, thank you for this. Thank you to the gift that you are giving to the world. What is the name of the next workshop that you're doing?
The next workshop I'm giving is called Fierce Love.
Beautiful.
And it's all about daring to be standing and loving even in the middle of the storm.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a live workshop?
That's a live workshop, yes.
I hope that people found this episode useful. I hope that you will take heed of Sebastien's words. I hope that you will allow yourself more pleasure in your life. I know since I started living a desire-led life, it made all the difference. I think I wake up and yes, experience the little things for being special and even sacred.
Thank you for this time, hoping to be able to dive a bit more, but at least with that to inspire some people to rush less for the next experience and actually to feel more, eventually to lose themselves into this pleasure of feeling more.
I hope so as well. Thank you everyone for listening. And if you liked this, I'd love to know by, of course, having you leave me a 5-star rating and review. I will see everybody next week.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formichella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.